The collapse does not happen all at once. It happens in a series of agonizing fractures, like a dam giving way under the weight of a flood. For weeks, the pressure on the southern defensive line has been mounting. The enemy, a massive coalition of proxy forces armed with the latest Western heavy artillery and supported by mercenaries, has launched a relentless offensive known as Operation Thunder. Their objective is simple and terrifying: to break the spine of the alliance of Sahel states, cross the Black Volta River, and march unopposed into the capital. The dust hangs thick and red over the battlefield, choking the sun. The sound of artillery is no longer a rhythmic thudding. It is a continuous, rolling roar that shakes the earth and rattles the teeth of the men cowering in the foxholes. The 12th Infantry Brigade, the pride of the National Army, is breaking. They have held the line for 3 days without sleep, without resupply, and under a bombardment so intense it has reshaped the geography of the riverbank. The casualty reports are no longer numbers. They are entire platoons going silent on the radio. The brigade commander is dead, his command post vaporized by a precision-guided munition. The chain of command has snapped. Panic, the invisible virus of warfare, begins to spread. It starts with a single squad abandoning their position, casting aside their heavy weapons to run faster. Then a platoon follows, then a company. The line buckles. The road to the capital, the heart of the revolution, is suddenly wide open. The enemy armored columns, sensing the weakness, rev their engines and begin the final push toward the bridge. In the deep underground strategic command center, hundreds of miles away, the mood is funereal. The digital map on the main wall tells the story in stark, blinking red symbols. The defensive line has disintegrated. The generals, men with decades of experience and chests full of medals, stare at the screens with ashen faces. They run the simulations, and every outcome is the same: total defeat within 48 hours. One of the senior advisors turns to the man standing at the center of the room. "Sir," the general says, his voice trembling slightly, "the front has collapsed. The enemy will be across the river by sunset. We must initiate the continuity of government protocols. The helicopter is ready to take you to the northern sanctuary. We have to leave. Now." Ibrahim Traoré does not look at the general. He is staring at the map, at the blinking red dot that represents the bridge over the Black Volta. He is wearing his combat fatigues, his signature red beret resting on the table beside a loaded magazine. He looks at the faces of his staff, men who have sworn to die for their country, but who are now calculating how to survive its fall. "You want me to run?" Traoré says quietly. The room falls silent. "It is not running, sir," the general pleads. "It is strategic preservation. If you are captured or killed, the revolution dies. You are the head of state. You cannot be on a battlefield that is already lost." Traoré picks up his beret and adjusts it carefully. He turns to the general, his eyes hard and unyielding. "If I leave now, the revolution is already dead. A leader who hides in a hole while his sons die in the dirt is not a leader. He is a coward. And I will not let history say that we ran." He grabs his rifle. "Cancel the evacuation protocols. Prepare the Mi-17. I am not going to the north." "Sir, where are you going?" "I am going to the bridge." The flight to the front is a suicide run. The airspace is contested, filled with enemy drones and the threat of shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missiles. The Mi-17 transport helicopter flies at treetop level, the rotors kicking up a storm of dust, banking hard to avoid the tracers that reach up from the jungle like fiery fingers. Inside the cargo hold, Traoré sits in silence. He is surrounded by 12 men of the Phantom Guard, his personal protection detail. These are the hardest men in the Sahel, sworn to shield him with their bodies. They check their weapons, tightening their armor plates. They know that they are flying into a meat grinder. They do not care. Where the captain goes, they go. The pilot's voice crackles over the headset, strained with fear. "Sir, we are approaching the landing zone. The LZ is hot. I repeat, the LZ is hot. We are taking ground fire." "Put us down," Traoré commands. The helicopter flares hard, the skids slamming into the cratered earth just a few hundred meters behind the crumbling front line. The ramp drops. The air that rushes in smells of cordite, burning diesel, and blood. It is the smell of defeat. Traoré steps out into the chaos. The scene before him is apocalyptic. Soldiers are streaming past him, eyes wide with terror, uniforms torn, dragging their wounded. They are a broken army, fleeing for their lives. An artillery shell lands nearby, showering the area with dirt and shrapnel. A soldier runs past, missing his helmet, screaming that the tanks are coming. Traoré does not duck. He walks straight into the tide of retreating men. He grabs a fleeing corporal by the webbing of his vest and hauls him to a stop. The soldier flinches, expecting to be struck, but then he looks up. He sees the face. He sees the red beret. He sees the captain. The shock on the soldier's face is absolute. He blinks, thinking he is hallucinating from the concussion of the shells. The president is here. Not on a poster, not on a TV screen. Here, in the mud. Traoré lets go of the soldier and climbs onto the hood of a disabled jeep. He rips the radio handset from the vehicle's dashboard, but then throws it aside. He doesn't need a radio. He needs a voice. "Soldiers of the Alliance!" His voice booms out, cutting through the din of battle. It is a voice of command, resonant and fearless. The retreat slows. Men stop running. They turn around. They see him standing there, exposed, a target for every sniper, yet looking as calm as if he were inspecting a parade. "Look at me!" Traoré shouts, raising his rifle. "You are running! Where are you running to? Behind you are your homes. Behind you are your wives, your children, your fathers. If you let them cross this river, there is no tomorrow. There is nowhere to run." A silence spreads through the ranks, heavier than the noise of the artillery. The shame of their flight begins to burn in their chests, replaced by something else, a spark of disbelief that is rapidly turning into hope. "I am not asking you to die for me," Traoré continues, jumping down from the jeep and walking among them. "I am here to die with you. We do not retreat one more step. This dirt is ours. This river is ours. If they want it, let them pay for it in blood." He turns to a young lieutenant who is clutching a map with trembling hands. "Lieutenant, get your men back to the ridge. Heavy weapons on the flanks. We form a perimeter around the bridgehead. Move." The lieutenant snaps out of his paralysis. He salutes, a sharp, crisp movement amidst the chaos. "Yes, sir. Platoon, on me. Move, move." The effect is electric. The presence of the leader on the front line acts as a force multiplier stronger than any weapon system. The psychological dynamic of the battlefield shifts instantly. The fear of death is replaced by the fear of failing their captain. Men who were throwing away their rifles moments ago are now checking their magazines, their faces set in grim determination. The routed mob transforms back into an army. Traoré does not return to the rear. He establishes his command post in a shallow trench overlooking the bridge, less than 400 meters from the enemy advance. He refuses the heavy armor vest offered by his guards, keeping only his standard plate carrier so he can move freely. He spreads his map out on an ammunition crate. They are pushing a mechanized column down the main road, Traoré says, analyzing the terrain with the eye of the geological engineer he once was. They think we are broken. They will get careless. They will bunch up at the choke point. He points to a narrow defile leading to the bridge. We stop them here. We create a kill box, pull the anti-tank teams back from the forward slopes, hide them in the brush. Wait until the lead tank hits the minefield. Then we hit them from 3 sides. The sun begins to set, casting long, bloody shadows across the valley. The enemy, unaware that the command structure of the opposition has been completely revitalized, launches their final assault. They expect to mop up the stragglers. They roll forward with arrogance, their tanks advancing without infantry support, their commanders already radioing victory back to their headquarters. The lead tank, a massive Western-built main battle tank, rumbles onto the approach road. It hits the trigger plate of an IED buried deep in the tarmac. The explosion flips the 60-ton monster into the air, tearing its tracks off. Now, Traoré shouts. The ambush is unleashed. From the ridges, the RPG teams personally positioned by Traoré open fire. Rockets streak down, hitting the thin top armor of the enemy vehicles. The column stalls. Confusion erupts in the enemy ranks. They try to deploy their infantry, but the Sahelian soldiers, reinvigorated and dug in, unleash a withering wall of machine gun fire. But the enemy is numerous, and they are desperate. Regrouping, they push forward with sheer weight of numbers. They begin to swarm the trench line. The battle devolves into a brutal, close-quarters firefight. The distance between the combatants closes to hand grenade range. Traoré is in the thick of it. He is not shouting orders from a radio. He is firing his AK-47, engaging targets at the edge of the perimeter. A mortar shell lands close, showering him with dirt. One of his phantom guards takes a bullet to the shoulder and falls. Traoré drags the man to cover, applying a tourniquet with steady hands while bullets snap overhead like angry hornets. "Stay down," he tells the wounded guard, gripping his shoulder. "You did your job. Now let me do mine." He picks up the guard's light machine gun and steps back onto the firing step. He lays down suppressive fire, cutting down a squad of mercenaries attempting to flank their position. The soldiers around him see this. They see their president fighting like a grunt. It drives them into a frenzy. They scream battle cries, rising from their holes to fire back. They are no longer fighting for strategy. They are fighting for him. "Hold the line!" Traoré roars, changing a barrel on the overheating gun. "They are breaking! Give them nothing!" For 4 hours, the battle rages in the darkness. The bridge approach becomes a graveyard of burning metal. The enemy throws wave after wave against the steel square defense, but the line holds. It holds because the man at the center of it refuses to bend. By midnight, the enemy momentum is spent. They have lost their lead armor. Their infantry is demoralized by the ferocity of a resistance that was supposed to have evaporated. They begin to pull back to regroup. Traoré senses the shift in the rhythm of the fire. He knows that in warfare, momentum is everything. If he lets them rest, they will bring up air support and pound the trench line into dust at dawn. He has to finish this now. He calls the company commanders to his trench. His face is smeared with soot and sweat, his eyes burning with adrenaline. "They are confused," Traoré tells them, his voice raspy. "They think we are just defending. They do not expect us to attack." "Attack, sir?" a major asks, incredulous. "We have barely held them off. We are low on ammo." "We have bayonets," Traoré says, And we have the night. We hit them now, while they are licking their wounds. We drive them into the river. It is a decision that defies military logic, a gamble that only a warrior king would take. At 200 hours, the signal is given. A single red flare arcs into the night sky. From the darkness, 1,000 voices rise in a terrifying roar. The soldiers of the Sahel, led by Ibrahim Traoré himself, surge out of their trenches. They do not fire. They sprint. They close the distance before the enemy sentries can wake their sleeping comrades. They hit the enemy camp like a tidal wave. It is a primal, chaotic clash. The fighting is hand-to-hand, a swirling melee of rifle butts and steel. The mercenaries, who fight for paychecks, find themselves face-to-face with men who are fighting for their existence. The psychological shock is too much. The enemy breaks. Panic seizes the coalition forces. They abandon their equipment. They abandon their wounded. They flee toward the border, chased by the demons they thought they had defeated. The retreat turns into a rout. The hunter has become the prey. As the first light of dawn bleeds into the sky, the firing dies down. The silence returns to the Black Volta, broken only by the crackle of burning tanks and the groans of the wounded. The smoke clears to reveal a battlefield transformed. The flag of the Alliance is still flying over the bridge. Traoré stands on the edge of the riverbank, watching the enemy dust cloud disappear over the horizon. He is exhausted. His uniform is torn, his hands are blistered, and he is bleeding from a graze on his cheek. He leans on his rifle, breathing the cool morning air. A group of soldiers approaches him. They are bloody, dirty, and exhausted, but their heads are held high. They stop a few feet away. They do not salute him as a president. They look at him with a reverence reserved for legends. The young lieutenant from the day before steps forward. He looks at the carnage, then at his leader. "We thought it was over, sir," he whispers. "We thought we were dead." Traoré looks at the young officer, then at the river. "A nation does not die until its leaders surrender," he says softly. "You gave me your courage. I simply gave it back to you." He walks over to a water truck, takes a ladle, and drinks deep. He wipes his mouth and looks back at the capital in the distance. He knows the war is not over. There will be other battles. There will be other offensives. But something fundamental has changed tonight. The enemy now knows that there is no easy victory here. They know that the head of the snake does not hide in the grass. It bites. And the people of the Sahel know that their leader is not a man of words, but a man of iron. The helicopter returns to pick him up. As it lifts off, circling the battlefield, Traoré looks down at the steel square, the patch of scorched earth where he stood his ground. It is no longer just a piece of geography. It is hallowed ground. It is the place where the myth was forged. Back in the capital, the news spreads like wildfire. The Battle of the Bridge becomes an instant legend. Murals are painted on the walls of the city depicting the captain with his rifle leading the charge. The video footage from the soldiers' helmet cameras, showing Traoré fighting in the trench, is broadcast around the world. It silences the critics. It terrifies the politicians in the West. It electrifies the global South. In the safety of the strategy room, the generals who had advised him to flee stand in silence as he walks back in. They are ashamed. They avert their eyes. Traoré tosses his dusty red beret onto the table. The sound is like a gavel striking a judge's bench. "Never tell me to run again," he says, his voice cold and final. "Prepare the counter-offensive. We have them on the run, and we will not stop until the horizon is ours." The narrative of Traoré's last stand serves as a reminder of the oldest truth in warfare. Technology, money, and numbers are powerful, but the human factor, the will to fight, and inspired by true leadership, is the ultimate variable that no simulation can fully predict. The lions stood at the gate, and the wolves were turned away. The Sahel stands,